The Friday night at Murphy's Bistro in Chicago's South Loop masked quieter miseries. Eddie Murphy, hoodie obscuring his face, nursed a glass of water at table 7. He'd opened this place to honor his mother's soul food legacy. Tonight, it reeked of tension. Angela, a server with tired eyes, refilled his water. Her hands shook. A smudge of mascara streaked her cheek. "You all right?" Eddie asked, leaning forward. "Fine, sir. Just allergies." Her laugh cracked. James, the white general manager, appeared like a storm cloud. "Everything to your liking, Mr. Voss?" He emphasized the fake surname, his smile ablade. Eddie nodded, but James's gaze lingered on Angela. "Pick up section 3, Angela. Now." She scurried off. Eddie watched Marcus, a black busboy, flinch as James barked about uniform standards. In the kitchen, Chef Diaz muttered in Spanish, slamming pans. Not allergies. Eddie's gut churned. Fear. He'd built this place to be a haven. Now, it felt like a cage. Eddie lingered by the kitchen's swinging door, checking his texts. Inside, Rosa, the sous chef, scrubbed a pot with violent force. "He changed my schedule again," she hissed to Marcus. "Says my attitude needs correcting." James strode past, keys jangling. "Marcus! Break's over. And Rosa, button that collar. Now." Eddie's fists clenched. He drifted toward the staff bulletin board, accidentally dropping a napkin. As he bent, a crumpled note fluttered free. "Angela, section 3. James says, uniform violation. No tip credit." Again. Back at his table, Eddie flagged Angela. "Another water?" She nodded, avoiding eye contact. Her apron was pristine, but James loomed behind her, lips curled. "Hustle. Angela. Table 5's been waiting." Eddie sipped his drink, ice cracking like bones. "Systemic." The word burned. His mother's voice echoed. "They'll try to shrink you, Eddie. Don't let them." Eddie intercepted Carlos, the dishwasher, in the alley behind the dumpster. The stench of rot clung to the air. "Got a minute?" Carlos stiffened, eyes darting to James's office window. "No hablo Ingalls." Eddie pressed a $20 bill into his palm. "What's James said to you?" Carlos shoved the money back. He says if I talk, he'll call IC. Says my papers went missing." His voice dropped. "Angela's next. He's been writing her up for uniform violations all week." Eddie's throat tightened. Systemic. Not just pettiness. Predation. Inside, James's laugh carried through the kitchen. "Angela! That apron's crooked." Again. Carlos fled, leaving Eddie clutching the crumpled $20. The man's fear wasn't about standards. It was about power. And it ended tonight. Eddie cornered Rosa by the fryer, heat rippling off the grates. "Talk to me," he murmured. She glanced at James's office. He calls us ungrateful. Says we're lucky to work here." Her voice broke. Last week, he cut Maria's hours after she complained about his jokes. Jokes! Eddie's pulse roared. Rosa gripped her skillet. "Go back where you came from, but only to the black and brown staff. He wants us scared." Eddie's mother flashed in his mind, her hands kneading dough, her voice steady. "Power like this? It's a weed, baby. Tear it out by the roots." He nodded at Rosa. "Thank you." As she fled, Eddie stared at James's office. Not a joke. A system. And systems like men could be broken. Eddie found Chef Diaz sharpening a knife, the scrape-scrape rhythmic, furious. "You're not here for the shrimp étouffée," Diaz said, eyes on the blade. "James," Eddie replied. "Talk to me." Diaz paused. "He reassigned my son from prep to dish duty. Said he needed to learn respect." His knuckles whitened. "Then he served my abuela's recipe last week. Called it ghetto." Eddie's chest burned. "Does Angela know?" Diaz snorted. "She's his favorite target. He's been docking her tips, changing her shifts." A crash echoed. James's voice. Diaz. Stop coddling the help. The chef slammed the knife down. He's poison. But you already know that. Eddie met his gaze. Then help me end it. Eddie pulled Carlos into the shadow of the dumpster again, the alley reeking of bleach and rot. Tell me everything, he said. Please. Carlos trembled. He calls us welfare kings when we ask for breaks. Last month, he wrote up Angela for serving while black. Eddie's breath hitched. He threatened to report my sister to ICE if I told anyone. Said he'd make sure she disappears. Carlos's voice broke. Angela's his favorite target. He docks her tips, changes her shifts, says she's lucky to scrub toilets for a living. A crash echoed from the kitchen. James laughing, barking orders. Carlos gripped Eddie's sleeve. He's worse when you're not here. Says black staff don't deserve to work in a classy place. Says we're all thieves. Eddie's vision blurred. He thought of his mother, scrubbing floors at 16, her hands raw but her spine steel. You let men like him win, she'd say. They'll keep talking. Carlos wiped his eyes. You gonna stop him? Eddie stood, fists clenched. Tonight. Eddie strode into the dining room, heart hammering. James had Angela cornered by the host stand, his face crimson. Your apron's filthy, he spat. Another write-up. Enough. Eddie's voice cut through the room. James froze. Sir, this is staff business. Eddie whipped off his hoodie. The room gasped. I'm Eddie Murphy. This is my restaurant. He stepped toward James, towering. And you've stained it with hate. Angela's eyes widened. Patrons leaned in, forks paused. You're fired. Security will escort you out. Eddie gestured to the door. Now. James sputtered. You can't. I just did. Eddie turned to Angela. You're the new manager. Effective immediately. The room erupted. Fists pumped, tears flowed. Justice felt like thunder. The room buzzed. Patrons clapped. Marcus hooped. Rosa wiped tears. James paled. You'll regret this, he hissed. No one'll take her seriously. He jabbed a finger at Angela. Eddie stepped closer, voice steel. You don't get to speak here. Ever. Security arrived. James shoved past them, muttering, This is illegal. I'll sue. Eddie raised his phone. My lawyers will send your harassment files to the EEOC by sunrise. Walk. Now. The staff watched, breathless, as James was escorted out. Chef Diaz banged a pot in salute. Eddie turned to Angela, voice softening. You're safe. He's gone. She nodded, trembling. Thank you. The crowd erupted again, this time, in hope. Eddie stood at the center of the dining room, Angela beside him, her posture straightening as murmurs rippled through the crowd. James lunged forward, face twisted. You think this changes anything? She's just another. Eddie's voice boomed, silencing him. Say one more word, and I'll have you arrested for trespassing. This is my house. Patrons rose to their feet, applause thunderous. Maria, the hostess, wiped tears. We knew you'd come, she whispered. Eddie turned to Angela. You're in charge. Any issues, you call me directly. He handed her the manager keys, their weight a promise. James sneered. They'll eat you alive, girl. Angela squared her shoulders. Watch me. Eddie faced the staff. Everyone, this ends today. No more uniform violations. No more threats. We film every write-up. We train. We protect each other. The room erupted. Fists pumped, tears flowed. Chef Diaz raised a skillet in salute. Si ese pueda. Eddie's phone buzzed, a text from security. James is off premises. He exhaled, finally, and glanced at a framed photo on the wall. His mother, grinning in her apron. We fixed it, Mom. The kitchen clattered back to life, but the air felt lighter. Eddie gripped Angela's shoulder as the room buzzed with relief. Rosa rushed forward, hugging her. Finally, she whispered. We've been waiting. Me too, Angela murmured, clutching the keys. Eddie raised his hands. Listen up. New rules. Anonymous tip line. Anti-bias training. Mandatory for everyone. And Angela's word is law here. Marcus hooped. Yes, sir. Eddie pulled out his phone. Text me your schedules, concerns, anything. This is your home now. Chef Diaz stepped forward, voice gruff. We'll make her proud, Eddie. Your mom, she'd like this. Eddie nodded, throat tight. She would. Angela straightened her apron, no longer trembling, and addressed the staff. First change. No more Section 3 write-ups. We start fresh. The room erupted again, this time in laughter. A patron raised a glass. To Murphy's. Real class. As applause swelled, Eddie slipped outside for air. A text lit his screen. James's office cleared. His files are damning. He smiled. Good. Inside, Angela took a deep breath and strode toward the kitchen. Keys jingling. Back straight. By Monday, Angela had torn down James's violation posters. In their place, a digital tip pool screen and a transparency board tracking schedules. No more secrets, she declared. Eddie reviewed the revamped employee handbook with her. Section 3's gone. Now it's anonymous reporting and filmed write-ups. Chef Diaz trained the staff on anti-bias protocols, barking, if a customer says, go back home, you escort them out. At lunch rush, a patron snapped, where's the white manager? Angela handed him a printed policy. Complaints? Scan here. He left, red-faced. Eddie watched from the bar, sipping coffee. A framed Chicago Tribune article hung behind him. Comedian-turned-activist revamps bistro after racism scandal. Angela joined him, weary but smiling. We did good. You did, he said. But this is just the start. She nodded. Next week, Community Hiring Day. South Side first. Eddie's phone buzzed. A photo for Marcus. James's replacement, a black woman, training at the host stand. Outside, a delivery arrived. A single white rose. No note. Eddie knew it was Angela's daughter. Legacy, he thought. This is how you build it. Eddie sat in his office, dawn light filtering through the blinds. Angela's voice carried from the kitchen, directing prep, laughing with Marcus. A photo of his mother sat beside the new employee handbook. Protect your people, she'd say. The rest. That's just gravy. He stepped onto the patio, breathing in the scent of collard greens from the kitchen vent. Across the street, a group of teens debated Black Lives Matter posters. Chef Diaz joined him, smoking a cigar. You did good, Eddie. But this fight. It's a relay. Eddie nodded. Inside, Angela trained 3 new hires. All black, all South Side natives. Far off, a church bell tolled. Eddie smiled. The relay never ends. Have you ever been in a situation where you saw someone being abused or mistreated? Share your experience in the comments. If you enjoyed this and want more content on inspiring Black stories channel like this, please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Thanks for watching, and remember, real courage is not fearing the consequences, but prioritizing justice over comfort.